Welcome to Kat Yaps, a podcast about books, TV shows, movies, and the changes of having thoughts about literally anything else. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Kat Yaps. Alright, so in today's episode, I'm talking about the book Wretched, written by Emily McIntyre from a series Never After. I actually read 3 books in this series so far. All are pretty good, you know. It's a mixture of fairy tale classics with a modern dark romance theme. So this one follows Evelina Wesley, a badass who's in the drug game, and a DEA field agent, Nicholas Woodworth. And for a warning, there are spoilers ahead. So if you're thinking about reading the book, read it, then come back to this video. Alright, so for those who want the cut down version, let's get into it. I'll also leave the trigger warnings down below in the description as well. Alright, so the story starts with our FMC, Evelina, who is 17 at the time. She is attending her sister Nessa's mass memorial along with her sister Dorothy, who already is giving bitch face vibes, and their dad, who recently came out of prison for drugs. He's been in from since Evelina was 9. Evelina sits there thinking about grief and how people say that it will pass, but she thinks that's horseshit. The priest talks on, and then proceeds to say that Nessa's sister would like to say a few words. When Evelina gets up, Dorothy literally pushes past her and goes up to the pulpit. Evelina is angry at Nessa for getting herself killed, and she's angry at Dorothy for killing Nessa. Well, damn. Let's see how this plays out. I'm sighing because it's another sibling rivalry. Like, I literally just read a sibling rivalry. Anyway. The story jumps to 7 years later, and we are introduced to Nicholas, a DEA field agent who's at work talking to Seth, another agent and friend. They talk about how Nicholas only hooks up with girls and then ghosts them, but Nicholas says that they know what they're getting into when it comes to him. In his thoughts, he says he has a hard time as it is, keeping his sister safe. Nicholas doesn't believe in love. He thinks it's pretend. Their captain, Galen, appears and wants to speak with Nicholas. He goes into Galen's office. Now, the captain doesn't like Nicholas because he slept with one of his daughters, and Nicholas doesn't have any remorse about it, making a joke right then, and then Galen fires him. Then he says he hates his guts, but he really didn't fire him. Nicholas is the best at what he does. He's just mad that Nicholas had sex with his daughter. I mean, I would be too as a parent, wouldn't I? Galen tells him he has an assignment for him in Kingland, giving him the file with all the information. The target, Pharrell Wesley, an Irish-American mobster who was supposed to be a reformed convict but is up to his old ways. Pharrell may be responsible for a new drug called Flying Monkey, a form of heroin hitting the streets. Galen wants him to go undercover and find out who's the supplier for the drug. I said Wesley, but it's Westerly. Their last name is Westerly. Anyway, you all know the drill. You take down the big boss and everyone else goes with them. Galen tells him to get cozy up with his daughter Dorothy, since she is Pharrell's weak spot and because he has a thing for pretty daughters. Okay, Galen with the shade. Alright. Now at a nightclub, Evelina is there with her best friend, her only friend, Cody. She's there to get information about someone selling a rip-off of their drugs and to eliminate that person in the process. So your girl grew up to be an assassin then. She's wearing a disguise, blonde hair and black long nails and a tight skirt. Yeah, she grew up to be an assassin. Cody tells her she should drink and dance and have some fun, but she isn't into that. She doesn't even drink. Cody goes to have some fun and tells her she needs to do the same. Lillian has already found the guy she needs to talk to, who's one of the bartenders working there and has to wait until he's off. While she waits, a guy comes up to her and starts flirting with her. She's annoyed at first because she finds him attractive with short curly brown hair and green eyes. He tells her that his name is Nick. He's here with his friend Seth as a celebration because he's going away on a job for a while. Now, I like how Emily just slide Nicholas and Evelina meet cute and casually but both of them not knowing how messed up it's going to get. Anyway, Evelina is not interested in Nick, and Nick tells her that he isn't trying to get to know her, he just wants to have sex. At that, she seems interested because she hasn't had a good lay in a while. But she leaves and tells him to go stalk someone else. She goes into the restroom, and part of her wants him to follow her in there. Once she's in the restroom, she checks to make sure she's by herself, which she is. Then the door opens and the lock clicks shut. As she looks up, it's Nicholas, and she tells him she knew he would follow her, and he's predictable. He says he doesn't know what's good for him and strolls up to her and kiss her. I mean, straight to the juicy juicy. No, okay. They're kissing and Nick pulls out the condom and she takes it and drops to her knees and starts to suck him off, but puts the condom on. Everything after that is dirty and quick, but Evelina has never had sex like this. Like he only wants only her. She needs to leave. She's on an assignment. She's starting to want to get to know Nick about his friend, about where he's going. She wants to tell him her name, which she has asked for multiple times already. She gets herself together and gives Nick a soft kiss, and his eyes darken. Y'all know your boy's strong right now, right? She leaves, and hours later, she completes her assignment by killing the bartender and getting the rip-off drugs off of him while she's still thinking about Nick. At Nicholas' apartment, now we meet Rose. It appears that she is a former drug addict, and Nicholas is informing her that he is going away for a while for work. Worry about leaving her because besides his work, she's the only thing that he cares about. At the station, Nicholas and Seth are interrogating Ezekiel O'Connor. He works for Pharrell Westerly. He's like his right-hand man. They are trying to get him to work for them. While showing his face to him might cause a problem, Nick knows they have to build trust with him. After they play mind games with Ezekiel, using his father being stabbed 47 times in prison and hung, Ezekiel agrees. I mean, I would agree too. He doesn't want to go to prison and end up like his dad. I mean, yeah, I'll take being a rat for 500, Alex. Now, with a way in to Pharrell dealings, Nicholas wants to know more about Dorothy Westerly. Evelina's at home in their kitchen, which is as big as a small cottage, which means they got a whole lot of money. Ezekiel sits next to her as she writes in her book. Dorothy comes into the kitchen wearing a baby blue powder suit. Evelina glances at her, noticing she looks really dressed up, although Dorothy is always dressed up, but more so now. Ezekiel asks Dorothy if she's ready to go. And that has Evelina wondering where these two are going because they don't go nowhere together. Dorothy says that their dad wants her to go with Ezekiel to see about hiring someone new for their crew. Ezekiel tells Evelina he's a professional thief. Evelina knows her dad wants to get into the jewelry business. Evelina doesn't understand why Dorothy is going because she doesn't deal with the business side of the family. But Dorothy tells her if she would put some more effort into her appearance, maybe their dad would put her in the forefront and not leave her in the corner. Apparently, Dad wants to show Dorothy the ropes of the business. Now back to why them two vibing. After Nessa's death, Dorothy has now become the apple of their dad's eye, and he doesn't really bother with Evelina. Like, he don't even check for this girl. But we'll see more of that as I continue reading. Ezekiel tries to comfort Evelina, saying that if it was important, she would have known about it, and goes to start the car. Dorothy tells her the only thing he's trying to do is make her feel better and to have fun being pissed off and writing her stupid love spells, but she's actually writing poetry. Ezekiel comes back in and asks Evelina if she wants him to bring anything back. She says a new sister, and Dorothy replies, why? You couldn't even keep the old one. Evelina still has her suspicions that Dorothy killed Nessa and is patiently waiting for Dorothy to slip up. I'm not sure if I said that it was a time jump, so she would be in her 20s now. I think she's like 24. Now, I'm not sure if she started to have a panic attack or she just wanted to tear off her sister's head, but she counts down to 10, like her sister Nessa taught her. Then they eventually leave, and she eventually gets over it. Evelina goes to her room and puts on a hoodie under her dyed black hair, and then goes outside and sneaks around the cameras on their big-ass property, ending up at a cottage. She goes inside and then to a hidden door of sorts downstairs that leads to a steel door to a greenhouse that leads her to being by herself because she enjoys her alone time. There are rows of puppies in the room. While many think her dad is the brains of this operation, it's her who's the brains, and although Dorothy has his heart, Evelina has his favor. Cut back to Nicholas now, who is going by the name Brandon Walsh. He's now living in an upscale apartment in the hub of Kingland. Noting if he was sentimental, he could actually appreciate the view. For the last month he's been living here, learning all about diamonds, the cut, the clarity, the color. His only connection to the outside was Galen and Seth. Seth checks in once a week. He closes a book of poems written by his mother, the only thing really left of her, while on the phone with Seth, who makes a joke about the last time they hung out, asking why they didn't hang out before. He left, but they did. Nick was too busy in the bathroom getting his dick sucked. That's why. Which brings us to the memory of the hot blonde who he wishes he got her number and name from. There's nothing he can do about that. That's what you think now, though. He meets up with Ezekiel and Dorothy at their family bar. Nick thinks it's obvious they are laundering money there. There's also a rival syndicate, the Cantonese, based out of Chicago. For years, they wanted to take over Pharrell's territory. So that's another thing Nick has to worry about. People like Nick, who find undercover work to be exhilarating, I would love to understand the mind of these individuals, because why would you put yourself in danger? Like, why would you, for what? Is you getting paid that well? Like, for real? Anyway, alright, so Nick meets Dorothy and he finds her attractive. Dorothy, being the thirsty gal that she is openly flirting with Nick, so much so that Ezekiel had to shut that down. For what I'm reading so far, it appears Ezekiel's like an uncle, maybe an older brother for the girls. He's protective of both of the girls, it seems. Nick gets straight down to business and wants to know why Pharrell isn't there. Ezekiel says Skip, who is Pharrell, doesn't meet with just anyone. From now on, I'm calling Pharrell Skip. Moving forward, Nick said he could find bigger fish, that they wasting his time, because he came there with the intention of seeing Skip. Ezekiel tells him he need to chill. But at the end of the day, Ezekiel still have to let him come in their crew, like, anyway. But they both just putting on the act, to make it look good, to make it look real, like he actually undercover. Like he actually an agent who threatening you, because you're gonna make your daddy stop 47 times. But anyway, Dorothy takes off her emerald green necklace and wants Nick to examine it. Nick already dropping all the lines on her, already asking her if her boyfriend brought her the necklace. Dorothy says no, her dad. He makes a smart comment about if that's what they are calling it these days. Ass. So Nick tells them that the emerald isn't real. Dorothy is shocked, and Ezekiel says how could they know if he's telling the truth? Nick says you don't. Back to Evelina. It is her birthday, at least the day she thinks it is. She thinks about her mother and wonders if her mom cried when she was born. Did she put her to her chest? Did her father hold her mother's hand? Her dad is in the greenhouse with her and breaks her out of her thoughts. She is working of all days, and her dad didn't even tell her happy birthday, more concerned about the product than her. Skip wants her to go to their bar to scope out the new guy for the family because Dorothy likes the new guy. He can't trust her opinion. He says to do it for the family. Family. That doesn't remind me of Van Diesel. Evelina is stuck in a chokehold because Nessa was big on family and wants to keep things together. I don't know what for, because her daddy treats her like nothing. Like she don't exist. Like the last option. But anyway, these FMCs is be delusional. Like she got this, she got to do like, like it ain't never that serious. I forgot to mention that I just realized that it's Wizard of Oz, like Dorothy, good witch, bad witch, potions, the drugs. I mean, although I can compare this to Breaking Bad, because like Skip is Walter and Evelina is Jesse. I mean, Nick is Hank. I'm just saying, that's just another way to, but anyway. Evelina gets to the bar. Ezekiel is excited that she's there. Evelina didn't care too much about Ezekiel when he first came around working for her dad. Now she would consider him family. She's annoyed that she has to be there to vet this new guy. But things take a turn when he comes and Evelina recognizes it's the guy from the nightclub a while back. But he isn't going by his real name. Evelina thinks he's lying to her about his name. He greets everyone before he notices her, and his mask slips a bit, quickly going back in place. He instantly starts to flirt with her, saying that he thought she was more of a blonde. They both stare each other down. Him perusing her body, it's clear he remembers her too. Ezekiel wants Evelina to give Nick a chance, but she doesn't know why that's her problem. Even Ezekiel was picking up the vibes from these two. From now on, I will be saying Nick instead of Nicholas. I gotta start shortening words now. Although the author, I don't think she ever addressed Evelina as like Eve, but I'm shortening her name as Eve. Me personally. Anyway, Nick is obsessing about Eve, the way she looks now compared to the last time he saw her. Her hair now black and piercing all over her ears, wearing a black skirt and a tee. He finds her intriguing, and the way she carries herself and speaks to him, she would have made an excellent interrogator. They're all sitting down about to order food, and Dorothy asks what Nick wants. He then asks Evelina what she wants to eat. Dorothy laughs, saying that Eve doesn't eat from the bar. He makes a remark if the bar food is too good for her. She tells him it's a brief indulgence, and I quote, "But other than that, there's nothing really special about them. Hardly remember they were ever in my mouth once I'm done." He knows that she's referring to their hookup, because he can't get it off his mind. He gets up from the table and goes into the bathroom to calm himself. I mean, yeah, you're about to be screwed, my guy. When he walks out the bathroom, he is confronted by Eve. The closest to her is palpable. Eve tells him whatever his name is to stay away from her and her family. Mind you, Nick wants to apologize for his actions, but he's undercover. He's playing the part. Unfortunately, his character is a flirt and playboy thief. Eve is in Cody's basement, her best friend, and a skill hacker. Eve hasn't told him the real her. He just knows a little bit about her and her family. She has him hacking into the mayor's office to get information for blackmailing. Oscar Newman, the mayor of Kingland, would not be where he is today if not for Nessa. She basically Olivia Poped him, so he could do their dirty biddings. But now after she's died, on his boat as a matter of fact, he goes to the family. Eve is getting a recording of this upstanding family man getting his back blown out by the commissioner. She also wants Cody to get information on Braden Welch. The mayor thought of his name pisses her off. Cody says it's going to take a couple of weeks to get the information. Nick is with Liam, one of Skip's associates, at Skip's strip club, Yellow Brick. But Nick doesn't know until they reach a VIP room that they're confronting Tony, the guy who sold Skip that emerald necklace. Nick starts to panic some because he doesn't know if it was real or fake. The guy gets angry when Liam accuses him. Liam's saying that Braden said it isn't real. At this point, Nick doesn't understand how quickly Skip trusted him. He thinks either he is the stupidest drug lord or overly confident. Rightfully so. Tony questioned how could Liam trust Braden. Nick makes the decision to throw Tony into the glass table because how dare he disrespects them. Liam tells him to go catch himself. Nick injures his wrist as well. He heads for the bathroom and knocks right into an angry Eve. She looks down at his wrist and sees that it's bleeding and pulls him into a big office with red furniture and dark walls. She tells him to stay put as she goes into another room, but he doesn't, using the camera that's in his necklace to try and capture anything useful on the desk. Eve comes back into the office and asks what he's doing, that she told him to stay put. Nick says snooping. At least he is being honest. And then he says that he isn't a dog you can bark around. Eve says she begs to differ. Nick is turned on by this and agrees and says, tell me to sit and eat like a good boy. I swear to you, I'll do it. I'm rolling my eyes in the back of my head now, by the way. Anyway. Eve licks her lips, exposing the tongue ring she has, which turns him on more, but doesn't reply back to what he just said. She says he's bleeding all over the desk and goes back on the couch to take care of his injury. Nick's thoughts are conflicted. He wants to help Eve, but he doesn't know how much she's into her family business. Liam comes in and goes up to Nick and threatens him, telling him not to do that again. Nick isn't bothered one bit. Eve wants to know what's going on, but Liam tells her that it isn't her concern and just to stay pretty and do the books. Nick knows now she's doing the books. Nick notices Eve bow her head and starts to count. I think it is a coping mechanism, right? But then she gets an envelope opener and goes up to Liam and slashes him. Like she literally holds on to his balls right now. Now Liam is over 6 feet and Eve is about 5 feet 2, the most. She holds the opener to his balls. Nick is disgusted and in awe of the way Eve can handle herself. She demands an apology from Liam and he eventually gives her a proper one. She lets him go. Nick is prepared to intervene should he retaliate, but Liam doesn't. He fixes himself. Eve tells him to relax. She finds it funny. Okay, Harley Quinn. It's giving a little bit Harley Quinn too, isn't it not? I have the preference. I forget that I'm posting it pretty on YouTube. I'm not knocking that. I like Harley Quinn. I'm very into the dark humor. Love that for me, okay? It's then Nick realizes she isn't a good guy and can't be saved. No, you just trying to justify all her red flags. Because you like her. Stop the gap. Time passes. Nick is in Skip's office. Skip wants him to go and do errands with Eve because his normal guy is out. He wants Nick to act as a bodyguard. It's clear that he doesn't know she can handle herself. You know the normal mob stuff going around to collect their drug money like big mobsters do. Nick is genuinely surprised. He would send Eve out to do that, but he doesn't voice that to Skip. Nick hops into Eve's Range Rover. Nick asks her why she's wearing those 18-inch high heels. Will she be able to reach the pedal? They're 6 inches, and he's exaggerating. She's not surprised that he's running out and makes a joke about his dick not being big enough. He gets frustrated because he wants to know who else was bigger than him. Bye. They get into it, some more, him asking why she's always wearing a skirt, her not answering him at first. She eventually tells him it's easier access. They reach their first destination. She reaches into the glove compartment for her rose gold gun and places it on her holster on her thigh. Nick's there taking it all in like the thirsty man that he is. These two are childish. Nick goes to the door to open it. Eve thinks he's being a gentleman. Nope. He slams the door right in her face as he goes in. The foolishness continues once inside. Eve is looking for Benny, the one who supplies her drugs to the lower level drug dealers under their command and collects payment from them. But the last payment was short $15,000. She asks a young girl at the corner to see him. The girl is hesitant to call Benny for her. Eve is losing her patience and Nick steps in, being the flirt that he is, and finally the girl goes to get Benny. These two start to bicker, getting extremely close to each other, face-off style. She tells him to not speak to her ever again. Eve is just mad he's there. She literally tells him she wants to kill him. Like this ain't the first time either. Nick would love to see her try. I forgot to mention that they were at some deli meat shop and the people are staring at them. Like there's like a couple of people there. So the girl comes back and they go in the back to see Benny. Eve kicks open the door, scares the shit out of Benny. She puts her gun on his table and Benny already knows what this is about. He says he gave the money to Liam. She ain't hearing him. She pulls out her gun. Benny clearly is lying. She hits him and still not sure if it's with her hand or the gun. Shit, even Nick Braden is shocked. Eve is indifferent to violence. She doesn't tolerate people disrespecting her. Oh yeah, she definitely hit him with the gun, because she hits him again. Nick opens Benny's safe and Eve says to take it all. Benny pleads that he has kids, mouths to feed, but she doesn't care. Man, she hit him again. Boy, it sucks to suck, eh? Back at the yellow brick, showing the money they just collected, Nick is riling up Eve. He likes when he can get her angry to the point her face turns red. She's in the middle of telling him she hates the way he looks at her, his stupid dimples, and that he's a liar. He gets mad at the liar part, which you literally are lying. He wants nothing more to just choke the brattiness out of her, and he does. He starts to choke her, then he kisses her. She doesn't stop him, so he continues throwing her on the counter with the money, some of it flying to the floor. Keep in mind, he's wired. Eve tells him to go on his knees, and he eats her. Nick is turned on when she disrespects him and drives his feelings for her wild. He lays her flat on the counter and fingers her until she comes. She then goes on top of him and rides him until she comes. I'm laughing because I'm literally in my bathroom. Like, I'm thinking, is my neighbor could hear me? God. My bad. She comes again and he catches his nut too. Not sure about them wearing any protection, but anyway, Nick doesn't know what to say to her after. But sis already left the room. You thought she was feeling you, eh? Nick meets with Seth at a sneaky motel in Kingland. Seth is upset about having to delete evidence for Nick because he can't keep his thing in his pants. Nick says if he has to keep on sleeping with Evelina to get the job done, then he will. Of course, Seth doesn't know what's really going on, though. Nick is at some warehouse. He's thinking he's about to witness them bring in more drugs, but apparently now they're in the gun business, too. Nick sent information to his people who gave information to the local PD that there would be drugs. Anyway, it doesn't matter because Skip must know someone in the police because he tells the guys the police are on their way. Nick heart stalls. Poor Nick. Are you really an agent? Like, why wouldn't you think that Skip has someone he in the police? Oh, so you thought the police would catch them? No. They pack up everything they could and made him light the warehouse on fire. All the evidence is gone. Now back at the yellow brick, someone's about to get killed for being a rat. Nick being the obvious choice. Liam has a gun to his head at the moment, just about the same time Evelina walks in. From there, it just went left. Liam most definitely thinks Nick is the rat and he wants to kill him, but in a turn of events, Evelina defends Nick and tells them she can run a check on him. Well, she already ran a check on him and he's clean. Or Cody isn't that good of a hacker. Anyway, she pointed a gun at Liam and all just to prove her point. Nick finds her sexy the way she is defending his honor. Skip decides that he will interrogate everyone who was there. Nick getting off the hook almost. So now Evelina, after helping Nick, she's been ducking him, but Nick finally corners her. going to her car. He told her thank you for helping him, and then Nick gives her this deep, long stare, and that's enough to get her panties wet. And Nick tells her as much as a bitch she is, his dick clearly likes her. They're about to get into it right outside where someone could catch them. Nasty. But Evelina puts a stop to it. As much as she loves their physical connection, she doesn't like him and doesn't want to be around him. Bree backs off and says she isn't worth it. Dorothy has been MIA for a while, which Evelina finds strange, and she needs to keep an eye on her because she's been more involved in the business, doing things with their dad, things Evelina knows nothing about. Evelina thinks Dorothy is the one to tip off the police, but she doesn't have proof. Now Nick is behind Dorothy. I don't remember why they was together, but she made a joke about Evelina always writing in her book. Nick wants to know what Evelina's been writing. Dorothy says it's love spells. Remember, Nick has an old poetry book from his mom. Anyway, Evelina ain't on board with that run. Unfortunately, Nick has to go somewhere with her. I don't know if I said that I'm shortening her name to Eve as yet, but if I didn't, I'm shortening her name to Eve. I'm done with that now. Okay. They're headed to a rough neighborhood in Kingland. Keeping up with the Wizard of Oz theme, the buildings in Kingland are green. Nick breaks the ice and asks her what she writes in her books. She tells him she writes poetry. Nick recites a famous poet and she's surprised that he knows it. They start to talk about their mommy issues, his mommy dying and hers up and left her. Nick slipped up right there because Braden's mother is dead, but he tells her he doesn't know where his mom is. Evelina starts to comfort him, but he shuts that down, leading him to call her a psycho, which pisses her off, and reaching their destination, she storms into the building. I forgot to mention how crazy Evelina actually is. She enjoys torturing people, and Nick is disgusted by this side of her for the most part. Nick enters the house where Eve has a gun to Liam's cousin's head, smiling widely when she sees Nick. It is clear by what's in the house that he's been repackaging their drugs and adding rat poisoning and baking soda to it. Eve wants to know who told him to do this, but he doesn't say. Tells her if you don't know, then you ain't supposed to. Eve hits him in the head, then shoots him in the kneecap, then shoots the woman who was in the house with him, must be his wife, in the head, all because your boy just won't snitch. Nick going through it right now. At this point, I think he got rid of his wire so he wouldn't get caught. I mean, this would be key information to be recording right now. But anyway, all of that, and he still ain't giving up nothing. So she takes one of the bags with drugs and shoves it in his mouth, making Nick hold him down. Then he admits it's Liam who told him to do it. But that doesn't mean Liam is a rat. Anyway, cousin dead now, and Nick is staring at her like she is someone else. She's glad that he is, so maybe he'll leave her alone. Nick drops her off at home. He's torn because he wants to make sure she's okay. He thinks maybe there is some humanity in her, not just the lunatic she is. But then he's supposed to be getting evidence. The smart thing to do is leave and meet up with Seth. Build their case, but no, the minute he sees Eve sneaking back out the house, he can't leave now, right? He ends up finding her small cottage with the same yellow bricks as the club name. But Eve knew he was following her. So when he enters the cottage, she holds a gun to his head. Nick makes a quick joke about her being trigger happy. She eventually drops the gun. Nick asks her about the cottage. She says it's an escape from her life. He thinks maybe she doesn't want to be doing this. He tries to get her to open up about killing those two people tonight. She doesn't feel bad about the killings. She's mad she lost control. After Nessa's death, she's been trying to keep control of her emotions. This would have been another time when Nick could have left and reported to Seth. I mean, had he called it in, they would have still had found the bodies, but see, Eve made him call Ezekiel to clean up the mess. But y'all have him working for y'all too. But no, you two wrap up in pum pum. Anyway, he wants to give her back control. He drops to his knees in front of her. It gets hot quickly. Eve ties Nick's hands behind his back and goes down on him and then back on top of him. They both come on each other. No mention of any protection again. Afterwards, Eve holds Nick and starts to feel happiness, but that quickly shatters as Nick leaves to go for Dorothy. Yeah, because he's still trying to cut up with her to get information, but she still ain't giving him anything. It's been a couple of days since Nick has seen Eve. He's in Skip's office now. They're discussing plans to go to a charity event for the mayor in Chicago. Skip is going to a sculptors competition to meet up with them and compare whose ball is bigger, and he wants them to help expand his business. Liam comes into the office and gets himself killed because Eve told Skip she thinks he's the rat. Oh, I didn't mention Nick learns that when Nessa died, Dorothy and the mayor was there too. Eve doesn't go to Chicago with them, but pays Oscar a visit, the mayor of Kingland, and reminds him that he works for them, hinting that she has evidence that she could use against him. Eve is jealous that Nick and Dorothy are spending time together. She replays the words he spoke to her when they were having sex the last time. He was speaking about a bunch of poetry and speak nothing into her ear, so now she's thinking about that. She feels pathetic because she gave up her boy to him freely and every time. But she comes back to her senses and remembers when Braden, Nick, was talking about his mother, that he lied to her again. Nick is with Dorothy at dinner and afterwards ditches her. She was trying to get him to come to her room and he wasn't interested. Nick sneaks out so he could call Rose, but had to end up going by their apartment where he got caught by Eve, who isn't supposed to be there, but she's so jealous thinking what him and Dorothy could be doing and mad as F that Braden lied to her again. She points her gun at him, but Nick actually tells her the truth, that it's his sister who he came to see, and eventually gets her outside the building into a small alley. Anyway, they behind the back of the alley. He pulls out a gun, they do some gunplay. Moving on. They're back at the hotel, with his hotel, and they start trauma dumping again about their mommy issues. He tells her that he was lying about his mom. No shit. Of course you was lying with your mom, because you're a liar. Anyway, did I mention that she ended up going to Chicago? That's how them two got together. Well, I mean, she went to Chicago to stalk him, but anyway. In Skip's hotel room, he's surprised Eve came to Chicago. She tells him they need to be concerned with who they are tying themselves to. Skip is telling her he wants to get the Cantanellas on their side because they are bigger than them. He thinks going into business with them can be viable for them, but he fails to realize they are the ones who have the mayor's balls nowadays. Eve is trying to tell him it would be a mistake working with them and says Nessa wouldn't have done it. Skip tells her that's why they're in this mess now, because she didn't make the moves like she was supposed to, that she was stupid. She was a woman trying to do a man's job. Of course, this upsets Eve, and she snaps at her dad. He then grabs her face tightly, telling her to wash her mouth. It's just then that knock comes to the door. Ezekiel, Dorothy, Nick comes in. Nick can see the red marks on her face. He wants to know what's going on, but he can't freak out in front of all of them. Nick eventually gets to see his sister. He had to make a run with Ezekiel and made him take him close to where she is. Ezekiel tells him his guilt is eating up at him. Oh well, it sucks to suck. Anyway, Rose is alive. She's staying at set for now for safety. Nick feels a little better now after seeing her. They're at the charity event now on the mayor's boat. Eve is going through it because she's afraid of being on the water. They have a meeting with the boss of the Cantanellas, and he agrees with Skip doing business with them. But the Cantanellas want to know everything about their business. He literally tells Skip he owns them now, which Eve was warning her daddy about in the first place. All she's thinking now is he won't tell him that she's the one making the drugs. That was the deal between them two, that he won't give up. So the meeting wrap up, Eve is out on the deck holding on for dear life. Nick goes out to her to find her alone and figures she's scared and goes to comfort her. He starts quoting her favorite poet, and that seems to do the trick. She eventually smiles at him. Of course, Dorothy picks this time to come out there spreading a mess, but if Nick know this is where Nessa died, which gets Eve going, she almost lunges at her when she sees her wearing Nessa's silver shoes. I'm assuming the silver shoes have to do with something with the Wizard of Oz, but I thought it was red shoes, wasn't it? Anyway, Eve tells Dorothy to take them off, and she does. She throws them in the water. Eve asks Nick for his gun. Clearly, Eve has had enough. But anyway, because Nick there, he was like, no, you don't need to do that. And he tells Dorothy to shut up. Eve breaks down crying, and Nick is there to comfort her, which Dorothy thinks is pathetic, and she's glad she didn't sleep with him. And she has the nerve to Eve and whisper that she didn't mean to kill Nessa, but she wasn't even mad that she did it either. Anyway, Nick take Eve home, which she would have done murder Dorothy right out there with all them people. They got home, of course they do some nastiness because that's what they do best. A couple of days pass. Eve is in a happy place down in the cottage with her puppies when her dad has the nerve to bring Dorothy there and tells her Dorothy is her new protege. She says she's want to expand. Eve says she does not want to expand. She does not want to work for the Cantanellas. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that word wrong, so just bear with me. Skip's bitch slaps her and tells her to don't try that again just because he loves her and he is her daughter. He is his daughter. He let that slide. Eve is done with him. It's clear to her that after all these years, staying loyal to him didn't mean anything. This is one thing I hate about the FMCs and MMCs in these books sometimes. Like, they are so delusional. Like, from the book start, from the first scene in the funeral, you should have just run away from your family from a long time. Like, it was a clear red flag, but you just ignored the signs. Anyway, Eve says, screw this shit. She goes to Cody and tells him the truth about her being the one to make the flying monkey. She needs to know she can trust him because she's about to destroy her family. He isn't that shocked about this drug. He's more shocked when she tells him she's been messing with Brayden. Eve asks Brayden, aka Nick, to meet her at the cottage. She's paranoid and greets him with her gun. He asks her if she wants that in her again. Because, they had gunplay, a couple chapters back. Eve says no, that's not the time for that. She confesses her feelings to him, telling him she loves him, that she hates that she does, and she starts to ramble on about how she didn't know how it happened and it annoys her that she loves him because everything about him annoys her. Nick kisses her, and she forgets everything else. He hasn't said anything yet. As soon as he starts to, he gets a call from Ezekiel and storms out. This asked Eve because he couldn't take the pressure what Eve was telling him. He knows he has strong feelings for her, but obviously he's conflicted. He bumps into Dorothy, who asks him if he knows about the greenhouse. Oh, Nick didn't know about the greenhouse, and then Dorothy decides to drop another bombshell and let him know that Eve is actually the supplier. Nick is shocked by this. This tears his heart in two. He leaves. He wants to go straight to Seth and tell him what he's uncovered. Everything is screwed. The reason he's become a DA was to keep drugs off the street and put people like Eve away. He's headed to Seth's motel, but what he doesn't know is that Eve is following him there. She's trying to figure out why he's in this rough side of town. He stays in the car for what feels like forever, then goes to one of the motel doors, not making sure it was closed either, which is dumb. So y'all ain't doing undercover work then. Oh, okay. Because they didn't close the door properly, Eve was able to eavesdrop and overheard Seth call him Nick. She's busting the room, guns blazing, demanding answers from Brayden. It starts to click that Brayden is not who he says he is. That his name is Nick and he's a cop. Nick tells her he's a federal agent. Her stomach turns sick, like she wants to throw up. Everyone got their guns up, but Nick drops his, pleading with her to let him explain. But she ain't on that run. So she points the gun at Seth. But Nick stands between them. Like, how are we supposed to choose? Eve leaves, saying, if you want to shoot me, then shoot. Y'all know he wasn't going to kill Eve. Like I said earlier, Nick is screwed. Cover blown. Now he's off the assignment and back at home with Rose. Now Nick is back at the office, which he hasn't been to in months. He's about to resign. He's about to go into Galen's office when Galen calls Seth and him in. The FBI are there. And they figured out who the supplier is because Nick never told them who the supplier was. Eve is at Nessa's grave now. She tells her she is done looking out for her family, that she lied to her. She finally figures out that she needs to live for herself. She feels betrayed by Nick and tears her poem book into shreds, burning it to ashes on Nessa's grave. She tells Nessa goodbye and leaves. She is back at home where she encounters Ezekiel. She knows that he's a snitch because Seth and Nick were talking about him when she was eavesdropping. She confronts Ezekiel. He says he never wanted to be like his dad. He regrets his decisions, but Eve, instead of killing him, lets him go. Now she and Dorothy link up, and Dorothy thinks she's about to learn how to make the drugs. Nope, Eve about to kill her ass. She's been waiting for this moment. She starts the process of making the drugs, which require putting something in a needle, I think. Anyway, Eve starts running on about she should have had listened to Dorothy and jump in the water that night, just like how Nessa was killed. Dorothy with a dumbass think this is a sister moment. Nope. Eve sticks her with that needle and Dorothy drops straight to the ground. Eve's grand show is to have Dorothy dangling off the ceiling and have a barrel of death underneath her. Skip ended up there and Ezekiel was following him. He sees Dorothy is fucked and Dad tries to reason with Eve already past that. But he's already past that. She puts a gun to his head. Ezekiel sneaks up on them and for Skip got the upper hand now. Starts to choke Eve, but Ezekiel finally man up and kills Skip. Yes, Dorothy is dead. Did I not say the barrel of death? Anyway, so Eve can't get in contact with Cody and she's trying to call him when he shows up at the house dressed differently than his normal hacker attire. She's glad he's there, but then she realizes that he's acting strange. Cody reveals himself to be an agent. They start to go back and forth because Eve was trying not to get arrested, so she's writing him off, but then she eventually just accepted her fate, and that's when Cody's head got blown off. Yeah, Nick just literally killed him, like, kill shot. Nick goes to her and unties her and tells her all the things. Oh yeah, I did mention that Cody tied up. He tells her that he loves her, that she's not perfect but he doesn't care. They kiss and make up, but Nick tells her she has to leave because the cops are coming for her. He tells her to leave so that they can have a chance. She hesitates to leave, but she does. Nick finally resigns. Galen actually doesn't want him to leave, but Nick says this isn't for him anymore. Eve is a wanted criminal now. And months start to pass, and news coverage on her lessen. Nick keeps himself busy doing woodwork, but he wants to know where Eve is, so he hires a PI. Months go by with no hope, but then after a year and some, the PI finds her. She's hiding in a small town in Ireland, and once he finds her, instead of walking straight up to her, he decides to follow her when she leaves the house. Eventually, when she goes to sit down on the hill to write, he finally speaks. She turns around and gives him a lip, but quickly turns her whole mouth into the biggest smile. He knows he's finally made it home. Eve knew he would eventually find her. They move closer to each other. Eve, because this girl just loves putting guns into people's face, puts it under his chin and tells Nick to give her his words. He starts reciting someone poetry, which I was lost with anyway. He running on, sheeting it right up. He eventually moves the gun from his face to tell her he loves her. They kiss, they in love. Nick love a wretched ass. The end. Alright guys, let's wrap this up. It's been a long one. The book was good. I liked the meet cute. I really didn't see Cody being an agent. Like, I was too focused on her finding out Nick was an agent that didn't even cross my mind. The similarities to the Wizard of Oz was cool, but I didn't know half of them. I never really watched the Wizard of Oz. Anyway guys, let me know what you thought. Would you read this? Until next time.